Hi everyone, Chris from BattleGoat Studios. I'm going to do another modding video today, and I want to start by saying I really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten on some of our modding videos. It included some suggestions for other things to talk about. We're definitely paying attention to that. So if I teach one set of skills, but you're looking for a different set of skills, leave comments down below. We check them out and we'll see if we can integrate into our schedule recording a video for the thing that you're hoping to mod. Today what I figure I'm going to talk about is the tech tree, that I haven't done much of that yet. And some of these videos I'm realizing are also going to review things I've done in other videos, and hopefully it helps players who are getting into the modding be more comfortable with how to do it all. So I'm going to start my Steam library. I'm going to manage, browse local files. This is still the same folder that I've been working in, so it has some of my past stuff, but I'm going to start with something entirely new today. The scenario I'd been making that was 2027. I've sort of broken the world a bit with some of the changes I've made. Now, I remembered as I was preparing for this video that we have a folder here of 2030's base map files, just the basic stuff that it uses. So I think I'm going to make a 2030 alternate with some new text in it. To make this work, I'm going to go into the sandbox folder, take the 2030 scenario and copy it, bring this into scenarios, because we always encourage working in the scenario folders, paste it here, and I'm going to rename this one to World 2030 Tech, which means I actually need a copy of this folder because I need the names to match. Tech. I should also make changes because this, again, it all starts with the dot scenario, that this has to define some things out. We're going to use the same CVP, region, theaters, unit, people. What I'm choosing to do is I'm going to keep the existing tech tree. I'm going to add a second tech tree. And I'm going to call this CL tech dot TTRX. And I'm going to keep the rest of the data structure. So now it's intending that it's going to read in two tech trees. And as long as I make sure and use IDs that don't conflict with the existing, everything should be fine. Then default, seeing what else I want to change. Those are all going to stay the same. We're using the default map. The other main thing I know I'm going to have to change here is the cache file. I don't want to use the World 2030 cache. That's going to contaminate my original game. So I'm going to call this World 2030 T. I'm going to close and save. Now just to see what I've done there, if I launch the game, sandbox, scenario, World 2030 Tech. And it still starts as Germany. Right now, if I build the cache, it would be exactly the same as our 2030, because I've told it to include a new tech tree file, but I haven't created that tech tree file. So let's not bother with this for right now. We've seen that we've got it set up right. Scenario, 2030 tech, maps. I will need a folder inside maps for data. And this is where I'm going to put my new tech tree. Let's take a look at the existing tech tree just to get a bit of sense for the data structure that's there. And then we can come up with our first tech tree entry. Oops. I want to use the content editor. So this has an asset manager. The asset manager is the tool that we use for working with the tech tree. And I'm going to import. I need to change to my... Hold on a second. I've been working with my development files. I need the location that I'm actually working with this time. Import from this folder. I don't have one there. I actually need to go all the way back to 2030 maps data TTRX. This is the default tech tree that comes with the game. When importing a tech tree, note that it asks you, are you using next gen Supreme Ruler 2030, or you actually are able, if somebody had modded a tech tree for SRU, it's possible to import it into this tool, and then when exporting it, it will be moved to the new format because we've added a few extra columns. So ng tech is what I'm importing. And we can see if I flip the ID, actually there's a count here at the bottom. So our tech tree has 1,033 entries in it. And the SR6 tech level, this is the relative year. So 1 would be 1901, internal combustion engine. If I revert the source, the sort at 200, this is equivalent to the year 2100. And here you can see we're into the really high-end stuff of the tech tree. As far as the structure we get here, every tech has a unique ID. There are some columns for whether things are active or not. That really goes to our development side of things. You can hide definitely the World War II column. The 2030 valid column, I would definitely make sure that it's included. I'm not sure it'll export properly if you don't have that set. I know for us on our development side, we need that. The category, there are 6 different categories for technologies. You set which category it's in, give it a short title and maybe a description. Not everything has a description here because the descriptions are actually stored in what we call a localization file, a translation file. We make sure the short title is still maintained here so that you're able to match it up and know which one you're looking at. So description column, I'm also going to do a right click, hide, don't need it. Prerequisites. Every technology can have up to 2 prerequisite technologies. So this means to have missile launch silos, you must already know Tech 27 and Tech 179. That's based on the IDs that are here. We can see that 27 is ICBM capability. So once you research ICBM capability, it becomes possible to research missile launch silos. So 2 prerequisites. Time to research is just the expected days at, and I think this is sort of at 100% efficiency, no money troubles in your country, baseline. 160 days for this tech. I already mentioned the tech level is equivalent to year minus 1,900. So 1962 is the equivalent year that we've assigned to it. And the year itself doesn't have much impact in game. That's really for us as designers to be able to know that we've got things in the right sequence. Cost is how much it'll cost to research. There's then a bunch of columns here about the effects that we support. Each tech can have up to 4 effects, and then each effect has an associated value. So Tech 15 as an example, it has 3 effects, 154, 155, 157. Each effect has a value. So 154 is being applied at 1.6 times. And I remember what this one does. Now, obviously, I'm just throwing some numbers at you here, and you're probably wondering, well, how do I know what 154 is? As I've discussed in some of my previous videos, to be able to know more about the data files, we rely on the Supreme Wiki. On this page, I can look up the tech tree. And there's the file for it. So the tech tree section of the Supreme Wiki has info about the tech tree as a data structure, and it includes all the tech effects. So if I scroll down this list to find 154, it actually has them grouped here. It says 154 to 157. These are modifiers for the defense of specific units. And I should mention that these ones here, this is part of a new system introduced with Supreme Ruler 2030, where certain techs can give buffs, but only to the units who've been flagged as they can benefit from this tech. So the example here, active armor protection is going to make stat buffs of times 1.6 or plus 60%, times 1.5 or plus 50%, or times 2, which is doubling, for each of these. So 154, 155, 157. That is ground, tactical air, and close defense. So getting that tech is going to affect those three stats at those percentages, but it's only going to affect units who've been tagged that they qualify to use Tech 15. And I might have to show more about that in something about the equipment file. In the equipment file, units can have a number of different techs associated. I may have mentioned some of that in a previous video, but I don't want to go too far down that path. Just to say that techs can have effects. An effect has a value assigned to it in most cases. There's a few effects that are special cases where they just enable disable something. And some of these, I believe anything italicized in this list is not currently supported. Some of these were mod ideas that came more than 10 years ago from the modding community, and we just didn't make use of those things. Yeah, so we've talked about the anatomy of what we've got here up to about the effects. Popular support is how much does the population of your country like or dislike you completing research of that technology. And then world support is, well, what does the rest of the world think of this? So I want to see if I can find something where those two values conflict a bit. Actually, I'll show another way of doing some of this while I'm here. I'm going to right click on the world support and say that I want to see a filter. That's added a filter over here. I'm going to say I want these to be less than 0. Should get me my negative values. So these are things that other countries don't like marginally. It's a small dislike that you're researching military technologies. But you'll get some of them where, yes, so here's an example, guided bombs. Your people, well, 2% kind of like that you've got better weapons, but 1% of the world doesn't like that you're pursuing weapons technologies. So that's how those two values work within there. The AI interest value, this very much influences when you let the AI research technologies for you, or when AI nations are fully AI controlled, it looks at this interest level. Higher the value, more likely it is to try and get it into the research queue. There's a value here, true, false. Can the technology be traded? These next few about unit requirement, tech requirement, facility requirement. These are true, false, but their only impact in game is to make the icon show or not. They don't actually limit. They don't have a function for how the data interacts. It's just that we want to be able to show the icon to say, well, if you research this technology, it's going to unlock some units or it's going to unlock some buildings. Cabinet AI interest, I believe, is unused at this time. A few more, start, exclude. Some of these other values aren't as important for the stuff we're doing today. These, which are the default columns to see, are the ones you'd really care about if you're going to try and make some tech tree entries. So this will give us a record of what's in the game right now, but we want to create a new tech tree file to add some extra stuff to the game now. So I'm going to minimize that and see if I can get back to this tool. Actually, what I want to do is right click and select Asset Manager again. This is a shortcut trick you can use to open a second copy of the Asset Manager. Often as I'm working, I will have anywhere from 1 to 5 copies of the Asset Manager open. Maybe I'm working on the same file, but I need 2 different layouts to see some different chunks of data, or because the Asset Manager works with multiple data files, I might have 5 different things open at once. So here I've got a blank Asset Manager, and I'm going to say File, New, and I'm going to select an ng tech. So this is a blank file, but to create my file, I just want to lock in my file name. And what did I set in my .scenario again? We said cltech.ttrx. I might as well just copy that so I don't make any typos. File, export to 2030, scenario, 2030 tech, maps, data, save. Now if I alt-tab and check the folder, maps, data, the file is there, but it's empty. There's no text in it. All right, so now let's say, oh, we need to think about our IDs. What was my highest number? 2028. Just to make sure I don't crash into anybody else's designs, I'm going to start mine at 2500. And then my second tech is going to be 2501. I'm going to make both of these valid. Like I said, I'm going to hide this World War II valid. That doesn't matter as a modder. Category, I'm going to make one for warfare and one for medical. Short title, new guns. Maybe I'm adding a tech that I want to create a new technology prerequisite that unlocks a new kind of unit I'm going to put into the game. New chemical formulas allow for better charge combustion. I'm using the description here, even though it's actually going to get lost once I'm done doing this. Partially, I'll admit I don't usually mod the tech tree through this way. We have our internal tools and it works a little bit differently. This description would get kept. So I'm going to write it there just for a moment, but I'm going to transfer it to another file after. Something I haven't really talked about yet is the tech tree. To mod it in properly, you need two files. What we're working with here lays out the data structure of each tech entry. The actual text for those tech entries goes into a separate file because that separate file is then translated for all 6 of our supported languages. So you need to be keeping that in mind. But this gives me something to write down for a moment, and then I will create the second file before I close all this off. And then medical, I'm going to say lab-grown limbs. Capable of replacing limbs. So just 2 technology ideas I've come up with. Prerequisites. Well, this is a case where I might look back at what I had before, but to have some context on where I'm looking, let's assign some technology levels to this. So I'm going to say 2023. We'll say this is based on something that was discovered last year. Oh, but I have to remove 1900. So for 2023, it's 123. And this replacing limbs, I'm going to say that's going to come in 126. Time to research, as I'm just starting to mod these, I would probably make them very small to start, because I just want to see the text arriving in the game. Check that I've built this stuff properly, and then I'll balance them against the other text that we already have in the tech tree. Cost, 500. Actually, let's do 15. Costs, I believe, if we check the wiki, they're done in millions. I'm not going to put any effects on anything right now. I'm just trying to make my initial text. Now let's do some digging, because I need to trap the text that goes with it pretty much right away, so I don't forget these descriptions I was writing down. Let's browse to the game's root folder, localize, local-en, and one of these files is the local text TTR. This, if I open it up, this is the description for every technology. And in fact, if you go digging through here, you'll find a whole bunch of ideas that we've never pursued, just some incomplete brainstorming. The text has still gone out because it's not really worth the time to filter it out. And so this file, at the end of it, I need my own version of this. Probably the easiest way to do this, the way it's supported. Again, I don't always do this modding in this way. This is me exploring a little. I'm actually going to take a copy of these folders. I need to open this again. Let's go back one. And I need, or no, I know what I'm doing. Copy this directory. Now I'm going to open another Explorer window. And I now have two copies of the same. This one, I need to find scenario, my scenario I'm making. The game engine allows you to create overrides in these folders. So I'm going to create a new folder called localize. And then in that folder, a new folder called local en. I'm going to focus on the English content first, and then we can worry about translating them after. Now we need this sort of file. I'm simply going to drag and drop this over to copy it. Now it contains everything, and I'm not going to try and retranslate all the other stuff. So I'm going to start at the top, highlight a line or two, scroll all the way to the bottom. Holding Shift on the keyboard, I can get every line. Now I'm going to hit Enter, Enter, Enter. I've just blown away all the existing text, and I'm now going to say that this has been, come on, hand edited. This is going to be a translation file just for the text that I've got. I'm going to highlight both of these, copy, paste, and I'm going to need 2500 and 2501. Now maybe I should have kept one of the lines that was already in there so that I could get my file format exactly the way I want. And I also know that because these are CSV files, a lot of users are using Excel or Google Sheets or something like that to be able to edit them. That might be a little easier, but I'm going to proceed the way I am right now. For better or worse, I'm down this path. Okay, so let's look at, I had a feeling the format was fairly straightforward. So ID, comma, name in brackets, comma, description. I can make that work. ID, comma, quote, name and new guns, quote, comma, space, quote, go to the end, close my quotes, and I suspect, based on this, that's all I need on the line. All right, let's copy and paste some things in here to make my format exactly the same. 2500, new guns, that's the description. 2501, lap-grown limbs, that's the description. And edited, I don't need any of that extra stuff. This is just my translations for my new text. I'm going to close that, save it. And now if I go back to root folder, scenario, tech, localize, local en. Where did I save that to? I just lost my file. I'll have to rewatch my video. Somebody will tell me, where did I put that? I wonder if, oh, it's here. I just walked right past it. So I created that one level down from where it needed to be. It actually needs to be inside this. All right, so now that should be a match to where the other one is found. I got two pointing at the same thing right now. Root folder, localize, local en, local text TTR. Now my problem is if I make these the same file names, I'm probably going to run into a problem. Yes. I haven't tried modding this stuff before. This may be a two-part video as I figure out how to solve my translation stuff. I have a feeling in a number of our existing modders, they have kept all of the existing translations and simply added their new stuff to the end of the file. For today, I'm going to use that. Yeah, because this is an override file. Okay, so I'm going to call this new. I'll still keep the file so that I have an isolated copy of my stuff. Copy this one here. Now, if I open this file and copy all of these, sorry, my web browser telling me about local news. In this tech tree file, I'm going to go to the very bottom and add in 2 more lines. Close, save. And I'll close this one off. So the original for the game, I haven't broken it. I can still play the normal game without it affecting other users. But I now have an override file for mine, so it gets the names of the technologies. Now I should export this, which these descriptions are going to be lost, so I'm just going to drop them anyway. File, export to game file, manually export. And there's my tech. Okay, so we've exported the tech for its data structure. We've appended some text so they should see the text in the game. I'm going to close this. I think we're ready to cache this and check if I've broken anything. 2030. Let's run the game. Sandbox. Go to scenarios. 2030 tech. And we need to rebuild the cache file because the tech tree gets baked in. And this is making a new cache file because we had never made this one before. That's done. Now I will find scenarios, tech, Germany, start. Moment of truth here as we find out how well I did all this. Now, if I go to research, warfare technologies, can we find new guns with description? And if I minimize that category, maximize medical, lab-grown limbs. Success! So, again, as I said, I'm used to using some of our internal tools, which are about 95% the same. But I successfully navigated the differences. You've now gotten to see me adding 2 entirely new technologies to the game. Now, I want to go back to the data structure and point out some flaws in how far I got. There is really more to do on this, but I'm probably going to wrap up this video. I'll explain what I didn't do. Let me quit. All right, I need another copy of my asset manager, and I'm going to import the tech tree I made, and it's a next-gen tech tree. So, some things I didn't do. I didn't assign prerequisites. That means that even though I've said this is a 2023 tech, if I have the Great War, if I loaded up a Great War scenario and tried to use this, as of day 0, this technology would be researchable. The only thing that stops somebody from researching a technology is if there is a prereq that the region doesn't know. So to be really effective here, I should look up, so 123, do I still have the other? Yeah, so I should look for, click to sort by year, right-click filter, greater than, let's say, 118. And then I might want to also right-click filter, just show me warfare techs. I'll say that you can't get new guns until upgraded defense capability on, this is a unit requirement. I might want to double check what this is used for. Programmable. Actually, there might be something in the technology category that I'd like to use. Ultra polymers comes in at 123. Electromolecular circuitry. Sure. We could say that this is a technology that led to those new guns. So 1719. Copy that. Paste it in. So now, as somebody climbs the tech tree, if they get electromolecular circuitry early, they will unlock new guns early. If it's late, it's late. Like I mentioned about these numbers, they're really to help us as designers understand the flow. And lab-grown limbs, again, should have prerequisites. The other thing is, new guns is just this technology. It doesn't do anything. I could now, in the equipment file, make a new unit type and make its prerequisite 2500, and then this tech would unlock that unit. I could also, I suppose, add another new technology that uses 2500 as its prerequisite, and then it chains to something. The lab-grown limbs, this is a case where I might actually want to be using some effects. So let's look at, this is the list of effects on the wiki. And I'm going to Control F to search the page. Healthcare. Healthcare rating. Effect 100 is the healthcare rating. That's an easy one to use. I'll say effect 100 and 0.03. This now means when you complete research of lab-grown limbs, you're going to see a 3% bump in your healthcare rating of your nation. And that's a way to use the effects. And generally, techs will either unlock buildings, unlock units, unlock other technologies, or have an effect. We try and avoid, every now and then we stumble across a tech which is what we call orphaned, meaning there is no benefit to researching it. Though it is worth pointing out that sometimes certain techs, if you read their description, they are very flavor-based for sort of role-playing style, and they could have a significant popular support or world support. There are some things that are useful to research just to make yourself loved or hated to change how you want the world to flow. So I think that gives a good overview of how tech items are put into the tech tree, how you can make additional entries, make yourself a scenario to use those. Hope this has been a useful introduction to modding of the tech tree. And as always, leave comments down below. If you're enjoying the games, leave us a review, chat with us on Discord or on the forums, and we will keep finding time to make more of these videos. Have a good day.